So I just got the 2-film collection of Godzilla and Kong Skull Island, and I'm just overjoyed with excitement that now I don't have to pirate the movie. I'm just kidding. Do not pirate movies. Pirating is wrong. And if you do, you're gonna go to jail for like 5 years or something. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true. So Dr. Sarasawa and Dr. Vivid and his co-worker Sally arrived to a collapsed uranium mine in the Philippines, where they find a skeleton that contains the Muto's eggs. This skeleton belongs to Dagon, a part of Godzilla's species. I forgot to mention Walter White is in this movie. He's that guy from Family Guy.
Hey, Lois, what's going on here?
Oh, it's my book club, Peter. Come, join us.
Oh, okay.
Meanwhile, in Janjira, Japan, there's unexplained frequency patterning, which are not earthquakes because earthquakes are random and this is consistent. This is a pattern. So then there's a nuclear meltdown. Joe's wife dies. So then we cut to 15 years later. That kid that we saw at the beginning of the movie is now in the military and has a family. He's going back home after 14 months of not seeing his family. So Brody and Elizabeth make out on the couch. I know that's so useless, but I don't know why I had to put that in. Brody's dad, Joe, gets arrested in Japan for trespassing on the quarantine zone. So Brody has to leave San Francisco to go to Japan. Brody picks up Joe and they go back to Joe's house. Joe the next day decides to go back to his old house to get his discs to prove that he's not cuckoo. On their way there, they realize that the air is clean, so they go to their old house. Joe finds his discs, they get out of there, and then they get caught. They get taken to this facility where they're keeping a Muto cocoon. This cocoon is absorbing all the radiation from the area. The cocoon hatches and it releases a Muto. Okay, the way I said it sounded like it was really peaceful, the way the Muto escaped, but trust me, it wasn't peaceful. So Brody's dad dies, sadly. So Brody gets brought into this conference room. So Dr. Sarasawa explains that back in 1954, the first time a U.S. nuclear submarine reached the outer depths of the ocean, it awoke in something. At first, the U.S. thought it was the Russians, and the Russians thought it was the U.S. Sally explains that all those nuclear bomb tests in the 50s were not tests, and that they were trying to kill an ancient alpha predator, as we like to call him, Godzilla. When the Earth was 10 times more radioactive than it is today, Godzilla and animals like him used to consume that radiation as a food source. But since the Earth changed, these animals adapted to living underwater, absorbing radiation from the Earth's core. A special forces team found a Russian submarine that had a nuke, and they also found the Muto chewing on the nuke. So then the Muto causes this shockwave that makes all the power go out in Honolulu. Meanwhile, Dr. Sarasawa spots a helicopter pointing at dorsal plates. Then a tsunami hits Honolulu. SWAT team officers shoot flares and they get to see a leg and a hand, so they open fire on it. The power returns back to Honolulu, but then there's a Muto on the airport. We see some feet, and as the camera slowly pans up, we hear one of the most iconic screams. Another Muto appears in Las Vegas, and it turns out that this Muto is the female Muto, and those shock waves were mating calls, and they're seeking radiation to reproduce. So now we're in another meeting, and this meeting is discussing a plan to kill the Mutos. So what they're gonna do is that they're gonna rig a warhead, send it 20 miles from San Francisco Bay. The radiation will lure the Mutos, and the Mutos will lure Godzilla, and then they're gonna detonate it. But since they feed on radiation, they're gonna use bombs as bait, and then they're gonna get killed by the sheer force of the warhead. In Lone Pines, California, Brody joins the army or something. I don't know. He jumps on the train with the warhead. I just don't know what's going on. Brody and this other guy hop off the train to make sure the tracks are clear. The tracks are clear until a Muto comes and visits them. The Muto leaves them alone. But then they have to face another problem, that is a literal burning train that's coming straight at them. Brody only survives by jumping off the train tracks and landing on water. Meanwhile, the Muto is taking that warhead. Meanwhile, kids on this bridge hear a sound that will make you shit your pants. Since it's Godzilla, they start shooting missiles at him, which goes terribly wrong and almost hits a school bus full of children. Luckily, Godzilla got up and his dorsal plates was able to block it. But then all hell breaks loose when they start shooting Godzilla with bullets, with missiles, with everything, which causes Godzilla to break the Golden Gate Bridge. Well, he didn't intend to break it, he just leaned on it and then it just broke. Then there's another shock wave, which means the Muto is here. So the female Muto and the male Muto meet and then they mate. Pretty weird scene. I forgot to mention that the female Muto is pregnant, so she starts building a nest for her babies, or should I say eggs. Since the Mutos have the warhead in the middle of San Francisco, they're gonna now have to disarm it. So, if Brody can't disarm the warhead, they're gonna have to take the warhead, put it on a boat, and then go far away from San Francisco before it detonates. They all get dismissed, not before Sarasawa drops one of the most iconic lines in the Monsterverse.
Let them fight.
So the Muto and Godzilla meet again, and they fight. But then it cuts away again. But I don't mind it this time because this scene is actually pretty cool. So the female Muto comes and lays her eggs on the nest she made. But then Godzilla does his iconic roar again. But Godzilla absolutely annihilates female Muto, but then the male Muto has to come and ruin it. They get the warhead, but they can't disarm it because they can't get the cover off. So they're gonna have to go with plan B. So the Mutos have the upper hand here. Of course, it's 2 against 1. But before Brody leaves the nest, he lets free all the gasoline from this tanker truck. And since there's flames here and there, it obviously causes a big explosion, which kills all the babies of the Mutos. The explosion attracts the attention from the Mutos, which finally, they get off Godzilla's dick! Sorry, I went off script.
I've made a severe...
Thankfully, this gives Godzilla enough time to get up and use his atomic breath. But of course, like last time, the male Muto has to come and ruin it all. They load the warhead into the boat, but of course, the female Muto already knows. So Godzilla kills the male Muto with one tail hit, which was pretty satisfying. But then the whole building collapses, and yeah. Godzilla looks at Brody like, I'm too old for this shit, man. Which Godzilla is 252 million years old. So he is too old for this shit. The female Muto wipes out the entire team that was there. So Brody is the only one left. Brody boards the boat that the warhead is in. He sets the GPS to as far as possible. But he's not that far away from the female Muto. So the female Muto gets close to him. Gets close to the boat. And Brody proceeds to pull out his gun. So he pulls out his pistol. And he tries to kill the 300 feet Muto. But Godzilla pulls a don't fear, Verly is here, move. He bites the Muto, forcefully opens her mouth open, and shoots his atomic breath down her throat. And then her head rips apart. This was so brutal. That was cool. That was cool. And he also does his victory scream, which was pretty cool as well. That was a brutality. And now Godzilla can finally go to sleep. Brody is found. Yay. Yeah, he gets reunited with his wife and kid. Yay. Godzilla awakens from his nice little nap. And then he does his final roar. And then he just hops into water. And this
It's how you eat a Big Mac, nigga!
And this is the end of Godzilla 2014. Somebody please kill me now. As much as I love this movie, there's just 2 little things that I disliked about this movie. Thing number 1, when we were about to get a battle scene, it just cut away. Like, come on, man. The first time we saw Godzilla, well, not really. It was the second time, but shut up. The time we saw Godzilla facing off against the Muto, it just cut to a kid sleeping. And the best we saw of them fighting was through the small-ass TV. I mean, come on, man. This is the first time we saw Godzilla battle something. Even in the final battle, it kept cutting to Brody and his team trying to get that warhead out of the city.
No, unacceptable.
Another thing that I dislike about this movie is that it's too dark. This movie is way too dark. And not dark like Godzilla 1954. No, it's just way too dark. You can barely see the battle scenes. That's another thing I dislike about this movie. And except for those 2 little things, I love this movie. And no, the reason why I love this film is not because Elizabeth Olsen is in it. The reason why I like this movie is because it's the first movie in the Monsterverse. And if it wasn't for this movie, then I would have no idea what the hell the Monsterverse was. I also like this movie because of its CGI. The CGI in this movie is just, it's just over the top. I love it for that. And also, this movie is fast paced, and it also has a good story, in my opinion. So I give this movie a 8.7 out of 10. But I'm not a critic, so my opinion doesn't matter. Anyways, Jake Paulers, I'll see you next month with a new video. Either gaming or something else. I'll probably be moving on to ASMR. What am I doing with my life? Okay, bye.